evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are more than welcome to another episode. This is episode 82, can't believe it, of the Coffee at 11 show, brought to you by wigwam.ie SME Peer Support. Delighted to have you join us here this morning for a very special episode of the show. And that's because the person in the hot seat is my dad, Tommy O'Brien, the legend that is. So, Dad, you're very welcome. Please say hello to us all and show us your coffee mug. Thank you.
Thanks, Colm, indeed. Lovely to be with you all, and I wish you all well. How about that for a coffee mug? Tommy O'Brien singing in Grafton Street.
I love it. And we get to that story for sure. Let me just tell you a little bit about this man that I've known all my life, or certainly most of my life. Don't remember those early days, but let me tell you a little bit. So as I said in my intro, when I put this out on social media, I've known this man all my life. He's my dad and a significant part of the person that I'm becoming. And when I realized that the Coffee at 11 show was actually going to run on through COVID, and COVID was going to run on, the restrictions, I thought I'd bring Dad in on his 82nd birthday, which is the 6th of August in a number of weeks' time. But then COVID restrictions are lifting 3 weeks earlier. That's why he's in today. So, Dad, it's lovely to have you here. But the original game plan was bring you in on your birthday. And a non-drinking, hard-working man all his life. He made a living and raised 5 of us working for Green Isle Frozen Foods in a sales capacity, retiring from there into another sales role with Cuisine de France, retired from there, and then got into self-employment in his latter years. And we'll get into that in a second. In his 50-plus year career, he developed a uniquely simple formula for getting results. And he came up with this phrase: the more calls you make, the more orders you take. Harvard wouldn't do it as well as that, right? The more calls you make, the more orders you take. And stop selling, start serving. And he combined these two philosophies, and in so doing managed to outsell, wait to hear this, to outsell on the tiny island of Ireland the entire UK sales force, right? For a particular piece of equipment back in the day. So first build a bus of the day there, Dad. A family man to the core. He and the ma, and you met the ma earlier, raised 5 of us and gave us the work ethic we all demonstrate, as well as the genuine interest in service as the right way to be and the right way to live. And I said I've no doubt he'd read some of his poems, probably play the guitar and sing a song or two, and probably wax lyrical about his children, his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren, and it should be fun. So, Dad, lovely to have you here. Welcome, and meet some of my friends that have stumbled across the Coffee at 11 show for the last 4 months. Lovely to have you here. So, in your own words, this is where I pass it over to you. In your own words, will you bring us back to Portmarnock, 1938?
Yeah. Well, that's where I was born and reared. Little village, a seaside village about 15 miles north of Dublin. And when I came out the front door of the house, when I was able to walk, the first sight I saw was the sand dunes. And below the sand dunes was 7 miles of beautiful beach called the Silver Strand. And those days, it was poor, needless to remark. None of you would know that, but so most people were living in ordinary houses, manual workers, and very little education. And I don't know how fast I have to go, but at one stage, my mum and dad decided that education was important. And there was no free education in those days. My dad was a driver for Arnott's. Sorry, I was one of 5 boys, the fourth of 5 boys, no girls. And Dad was a driver for Arnott's, and he used to leave our house on the Portmarnock on a Monday morning at 7. He'd come home on a Friday night at 6. So we know Dad all week. Mum was there trying to mind us on that. And then a very bold decision, Mum decided education, she went back to work. Unheard of in the 1940s and 50s for a woman to go back to work. So Mum went back to work, and we all went to secondary school. We went to secondary school. I was talking to Sarah about this. I don't think I learned very much, Sarah. I was sent to Joey's in Fairview, so I had to go walk to the station, about a mile away, get the train into Amon Street, get the bus back, and I got a penny halfpenny to get the bus back. But sometimes I wouldn't bet. I'd walk, and I'd spend the penny halfpenny in Louis. I'd have a cigarette at lunchtime. So that's where I learned how to smoke, rather than learn about life. So I stayed in Joey's, played a bit of football. One of Leicester College's men with the famous Foley brothers, who played for Dublin eventually. So I loved football, and by there was about 5th year, I just barely scraped through my sitting for my 5th year, and the brother came into the class and said, boys, there's a Dublin company looking for a junior clerk. And Thomas, Dominic, Joseph, Didymus O'Brien, hand up, got the job. And I stayed there for 9 years, tea, wine and spirit merchants on the quays. and I was junior clerk, customs clearance officer, dispatch clerk, production manager, if you don't mind. But I was really going nowhere. And then decided I'd better move on, and somebody knocked on my door one day, maybe it'd be good on the road. And I got a job as a van salesman for Dailies of Cork. Spent 2 years with them. Again, realised it was going nowhere. Donald asked me this one day, Dad, how did you make those decisions to move? I said, I don't know, Donald. I said, you know, there's something in all of us that says, look, I can do better. And it wasn't that I was looking for riches or grandeur or anything like that, just to feel fulfilled in my life, you know, whatever that means. That means lots of things for different people. So I stayed with them for a couple of years, and then another knock on the door. No, I met a guy, see, Tommy, there's a company down the road looking for a catering sales rep. I didn't know what catering even meant. Catering sales rep, frozen food company, Everfresh frozen food. I was down in Skerries. I went down to pick up the local phone in the phone box. Hello, my name is Tommy O'Brien. I believe you're looking for a catering rep. Well, we've already done all the interviews and blah, blah, blah. But I said, I've just heard about it now. Well, sir, he says, come in and I'll meet you. And I went in and I got the job. Delighted. We just moved into our first house. We had rented houses before that. We moved into our first purchase house at this time. And I went into Everfresh frozen foods, and 4.5 months later, they went into liquidation. So there we are, new house, no job, and Carol and Colm. And bachelors then decided that they were going to have a look at this business. They knew nothing about frozen foods. And they'd heard my name mentioned, and some guy said to me, Tommy, I should ring them. I rang them. Pat Lockery, Dr. Pat Lockery interviewed me. And then he said, well, we think about it. We're not sure if we're going to go into this business at all or not. And then I got another call, come in, and he says, I'll give you 6 months employment. Because we're not sure if frozen food, it was unheard, frozen food was not in the reckoning at all those days. So after a few months, he said, look, Tommy, we're pleased with your performance. So whether we have frozen foods or not, you'll have a job. And of course, that was a great relief for Dorian and myself. And so I hung in there. Then I started to introduce new products with mainly vegetables, peas, beans, sprouts, cauliflower. No frozen chips, unheard of. No fancy goods at all. In fact, I was selling to the catering trade, and they'd no freezers. So Tommy, you'd have to lend us a freezer. How can we keep your frozen food? So I'd have to loan them freezers. You go in another week and it'd be half full of somebody else's ice cream or something like that. So that's the way things were. So 5 years on, I introduced burgers and chips and fish and all sorts of things. And the fast food began to happen, Burgerland, into Burgerland or wherever it was. And then under fierce pressure, because Bachelors was Bachelors, peas and beans, barley and beanie, very well-known company, Green Oil Frozen Foods, very little known. And I am conscientious, and I suffered a nervous breakdown. So very close, on the verge, and psychiatrist tablets, tendered my resignation to Green Isle. I couldn't understand it. I wasn't going to tell them I was attending a psychiatrist, that I was not able to think straight. So went out on my own for a while, selling frozen foods. I had made enough contacts that were happy to do business with me. 10 months later, I got a phone call from Green Isle, Tommy, I'd like to meet you. I didn't tell them about my medical or my mental state. They said, Tommy, we'd like you to come back. I went back and I stayed for another 25 years. So it was 30 years in Green Isle Frozen Foods. And it was good for me because Doreen and I married 1961, had the 5 children. Some of them were very bold. Can't say who.
Carol has improved over the years. Let's be honest. It's fine, you know.
How am I doing so far? I brought it to me.
Right. Listen, perfect. Dad, listen, that was lovely. Thanks. That it's a really important part of the Coffee at 11 show. This thing was born in COVID, and we've been making it up as we go. But what's become really apparent is that the guest will come in and give us that early history, because it just gives us a picture of who's sitting in front of us. And so thank you for that, and thanks for sharing that piece towards the end there. That's not easy to share, but on behalf of everybody in the cafe, thanks for sharing that, because somebody in the cafe, perhaps it might affect them in some shape or form, or somebody they know. So you're getting the boola bus, silent boola bus all around the cafe there, or perhaps somebody will listen to the replay, and it'll it'll help. So thank you for that. But you know, some journey. In fairness, some journey. I saw there's some lovely comments coming in. I'll leave them for Princess Shelley to read out later. But in essence, people are sort of saying, you know, it was that question that Donal asked you, Dad, how do you know when to make a change? And you say, well, I don't quite know, but there's a feeling. And I think Harriet McGuigan put in something, you know, your gut is always 100% on the money. So good stuff. Okay, so 25 years on in Green Isle, you raised 5 of us, and through that, and then things began to change again. You know, Ireland, the whole economy shifted up a gear, and there was huge business and huge competition. And you eventually retired out of Green Isle, and you got into Cuisine de France. But before you go there, if you wouldn't mind, you alluded to the fact that in 5th year the brother came in and said there was a job going, and you shot the hand up and you ran out of school.
Yeah.
From my memory, when you were 37, you went back to do your leaving cert. All right.
Yeah, that's right.
Talk to us about that, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I was at this stage. I was dealing with hotel managers or hotel chefs, catering managers. The business had grown dramatically over the years. All the big IT companies were coming into our Microsoft, Gateway 2000, all those people, Campbell Catering, John D. Carroll Catering. And I got involved selling to all those people. I was very fortunate. I made lots of lovely connections with people. I mean, really lovely connections. Still talking to me today. The lady who presented me with this a couple of weeks ago, Irene Collins, was a contract catering manager. She now runs her own company called Excellence Ireland. But to think that she'd even bothered talking to Tommy O'Brien, but we made great connections with people. It was lovely. But see, I've gone off on a tangent now, and I'm kind of lost where I was going. But
we're talking about your leaving cert, and you felt the need to go back.
Yeah, correct. Good man, Colm. Yeah. So I was dealing with these people who were educated people, you know, went to college and so on, got degrees. And here was Tommy O'Brien with the primary and a lukewarm intercert. So I decided I'd go back. And so there was a college down here, Colashfaguli, and I went back for 2 years. I did Irish, English. I did 3 subjects the first year, Irish, English, and maths the first year, and history and geography the next year. No, biology. I took biology because the others were too difficult, and I had never done biology in my life. So don't ask me about sclerenchyma cells or xylons and phloems, because I've forgotten. But they were words I used. And I got two B's, 2 C's and a D. Got my leaving cert after 7.
No, it's great. It's a great story. But the other thing I want you to touch on is your method of study, because these days audiobooks is the way to go. But back in the day, you had a unique way of studying and for your exams. Tell us about that.
Don't tell them too much about me, Don. Yeah, when I come home after my class, you know, I'd had a list of notes, you see. So I put on a little tape recorder, and I'd read into the tape recorder what I learned, you see, what I'd studied or what I'd heard. And the next day I'd be going on the road to sell for Green Isle. I might be going to Dundalk or up to Bettystown where you are, Eamon, is it? And the minute I go out the gate, press the button, and now I'd hear all about biology, selectable cells, xylons and phloems, blood cells, heart, you know, or so on. So it was great, and there's no doubt about it, as Colm alluded to there. When I did sit the exams eventually, you know, and you'd hear a question, I felt like just pressing my button on the desk and saying, okay, now talk to me. And it's amazing. So it's a great way to learn. So that was it. That was it.
Yeah, that's great. Great story. It's a great way to learn, and a great way to study, and great use of time. You know, seriously, driving is, in my opinion, the biggest waste of time unless you can put it to use like that. But that was back. You know, the guts of 50 years ago, on the basis that you were 37.
Yeah, that's right, Colm.
Well done, you. Yeah. Listen, great stuff. So we've come up through school. We've had the first job. We've had the leaving cert, right? Not in the usual order. And then we're heading to the change that happened that brought you into Cuisine de France, if you wouldn't mind. And then I want to get into the Robbie story, the words that changed your life.
Yeah, well, during the 30 years with Green Isle, there were about 4 or 5 takeovers, and there was always a change in focus, change in personnel. And then eventually 11 years, maybe 10 years before I eventually left Green Isle, because I was let go at 60 years of age. But so we left bachelor's, motherhood, fatherhood, I don't call it, and we were taken out, and I was placed down in Naas. You know, I'd move it from catering to semi-catering, semi-retail, moved down the country a little bit, stayed overnight a few times. So what I'm saying to you, you know, a touch of the old depression hit me on occasions, only on occasions, but a struggle. And then at one stage, I got a phone call from a guy that worked with me in Bachelors, and Ronan McNamee, who subsequently himself and Pat Lockery formed Cuisine de France. And he rang me to say, would I join them? I said, look, I can't join you now. Like I've invested my years in it. I just can't walk out. So, well, anyway. So, I'm not jumping around too much, but anyway, yeah, I got this phone call, and Cuisine had been set up. Cuisine de France had been set up and doing nicely in the retail trade. And this guy rang me, Hugh, the general manager, said, Tommy, Ronan wants to meet you. So I went in to see Ronan, and I Saturday morning up in Tala, magnificent big building, gates all open. There was a Mark sitting in front of the office, the desk, or the front door, and I drove in, come down, Tommy, lovely to meet you, come on, have a cup of coffee. And I said, now, by the way, Ronan, says, I'm working for the opposition, says so I don't want to be involved in, no, I don't want to know your business. No, you're all right, he says. So before I left, he says, Tommy, we'd like you to, Pat and I would like you to join us, set up a catering division for Cuisine de France. We don't have one. I said, look, I can't leave now. I said, I've nearly 30 years, and I walk out and says, I have nothing. But he says, we'll wait for a year. We'll wait for 1 year. I said, okay. 3 months later, they must have known something that was going on. 3 months later, I was called in, Tommy, we're making changes, and you won't be one of those changes. So, you know, there were 5 or 6 of us let go. Anybody in the 60s, grey hair. But the amazing thing is, I knew there was a job for me. They didn't know there was a job for me. And was I happy? They couldn't believe they gave it sort of a private coffee shop some morning. I went back and said to the boys, by the way, lads, yeah, I'll be able to join you. And it was great.
Two things, and thanks for going there. Two things I want you to touch on, if you don't mind. So you joined Cuisine to set up this catering division. And from memory, it was towards the end of a year, from memory. And they said to you, right, between now and Christmas, Tommy, just go out and talk to your contacts and come back to us and give us an indication as to how much business you think we'll do in our first full year starting in January.
Yeah. So you're right. I remember I did the first 3 months, and I had a feel for what was happening. It was new. It was all frozen. It wasn't peas, beans, sprouts, cauliflower, burgers, and all that. It was purely bread and a few pastries. So I said, look, I think I can do 400,000 the first year. And Ronan McNamee says, Tommy, away you go. And I did 734,000. I have the figures here to prove it. And the following year, I was looking at 1.3 million. And what happened? Aortic aneurysm, into hospital. Blessed to be alive today to talk about it. And so I got over that, thank God, and was very weak and feeble. And they were good to me, in fairness to them. And then when I got back, they said, look, Tommy, we only need you to work half a week, 2.5 days, or whatever way you want to work it, half day for 5 days. And I couldn't believe this. And Colin, you remember Jerry was getting married, I think, in California. I wanted to go to the wedding. She said I was ready to go, and I was, you know, just about healthy enough to travel. And came back from the wedding, called into the office, Tommy, we're making changes, and you're not in the changes. So, having given them nearly 1.34 million, bye-bye, Tommy.
Yeah, that's just, but look, all part of the journey.
Yeah, it's another great story. But talking about divine providence, the good Lord has been looking after me. We never realised it till it's happened. If we knew what was going to happen, and then we could maybe be always happy, but that's not the way things are. So this day, the news got out because I was well known in the trade. Tommy O'Brien is leaving Cuisine de France. And I got a phone call from a gentleman called Kieran Kieran, who was doing all the catering in the RDS. And I'd known Kieran not terribly well, but well enough to have a relationship with him. And this day, about a week or 2 weeks before I was to leave Cuisine by arrangement with them, Tommy, and I'll never forget these words. In fact, I did an English course a few years ago, creative writing, and we had to do a composition every week. Was it every week? Yeah, or every 10. And one of the titles was these words changed my life. Tommy, I'd like to invite you for lunch. He invited me to the RDS. We sat down, a great lunch, great chat. And funny enough, I was leaving cuisine a few days later, and I wasn't worried. I don't know why. I was at peace in a way. It was over me, my back, I had my aneurysm was over me, and you know, I was at peace. And he said, Tommy, you should have been working for yourself. He said, everybody knows you. You know, I said, well, like when you have a family, you don't run away from a job. So he says to me, I think there's a catering. I said, there's an exhibition in the room, in there. And I said, what is it? He said, yeah, I think it's a catering exhibition. I walked in the door, and I've been in that room every year, twice or three times at catering shows for over the 30 years or more. I never saw this before in my life, but right in front of me, agent wanted. I didn't even know what it was. I walked on, hello, I'm a free agent. What are you selling? Steam machines, frozen to steam. So he says, okay, Tommy, what's your experience? I told him very briefly, I'll see you tomorrow. There's a chap here in the stand. He says, I don't want him to hear me talking to you. So met him the next day. He said, okay, I like what I see and I hear. I'll take you on. But says he, that lad will have to report to you. Says he's not much good, but he says he's in the team. I said, Peter, I don't like saying what I'm going to say, but to say, I've been carrying people all my life to say, you have me on my own and you don't have me at all. Okay, says he, I'll take you on. And because I didn't want to carry anybody. And then he says, I'll send somebody over from England, he says, to coach you around the trade. No, says I don't. I said, I'll go to England and tell me what to do. I say, I'll handle the Irish scene myself. So as Colm said, thank God, Dorian and I, we did trade shows in the RDS, and Dorian would go out from this gorgeous lady, hello, what are you, with steam fields, come on in, my husband will show you. She's down there now. And we did great business. And we loved it. We've 10 years doing trade shows in the area, and we travelled the country together, not every week together, but we did a lot of travelling together, and it was great. Up around Donegal and Galway, where ladies from there, and Kerry and wherever else, you know. I must tell you, going down to Kerry one time, up at Mal's Gap having a cup of coffee, it was quite of Americans there, you know. How you doing there, buddy? That's all right, great. I hope you're enjoying it. You just arrived. So you're on holidays? Are you already on vacation? No, I said, I live in Ireland. Oh, you down here on vacation? No, I'm going down and do a bit of business. Oh, what are you doing? I said, I'm a salesman too. I'm a salesman too. So like, what do you sell? You said, I sell graves. Graves. Well, see, what do you sell? I said, steam machines. How do you close the sale? He says, I beg your pardon? He says, how do you close the sale? I said, didn't know what he was talking about. So then I realized, I suppose at some stage you have to clinch the deal. Well, I said, I suppose, yeah, what I do is that when I'm showing them the machine and I give them the handle and they start cleaning themselves and they realize it's value. It's a great machine, there's no doubt about it. And I said, I hear them saying, oh, that's great, that's done a grand job there, Tommy, yeah, look at that. And you might call some of the staff over, do you see this? Look, that's the way I want to see this place, you know. Because I remember in Kelly's Rosslare, I was there the other day for a meal, and I was demonstrating the machine to the chef. And Mr. Kelly came in, now one of the best hotels in Ireland. And he says, now look, he says, you see this machine? That's the way I want to see this place. And at the end of it all, now says he, Tommy, give me the bad news. And I never forget what I said to him, Mr. Kelly, there's no bad news. I said, it's a great machine, isn't it? Yeah, right, come on. He says, I'll give you the check. I shut up, sorry.
That's great. It's great stuff. No. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's actually a very pertinent conversation, the conversation with that American in Moss Gap, because you did say to him, I've never closed a sale in my life. And you have this lovely phrase at a certain point in the interaction with you.
Yeah.
You'll sort of say, will we get the paperwork done now?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, sorry.
You're right.
And
when I picked the stage where I know it was pretty well there, so you like that? Yeah, oh yeah. Well, look, will we get the paperwork done? I never asked them, are you going to buy it? Can I sell it to you? And it worked. No doubt about it.
But phenomenal, and I've been quoting you for years. Eamon Smith said, I'm looking forward to meeting Tommy. He's the most quoted man on the show here. But, you know, you did come up with that phrase, the more calls you make, the more orders you take. Because you make 3 phone calls, folks, you're not going to sell anything. Make 3,000 phone calls, you'll sell something. Simple as. And the other one is serving, not selling. And quick story, I'm going to remind you, but I hope you can pick up on it. It was at one of your retirements, because we've had several retirements, right? And you've had all the catering managers and executive chefs from all around the country.
Yeah.
And there was one of them, it might have been Nicky O'Neill is a name that comes to mind, either Irish Rail or Dublin.
Irish Rail. Still a very good friend of mine. Yeah, Nick O'Neill.
But anyway, one either Irish Rail or Dublin Airport.
Paddy Fay.
Okay, one of them stood up and he said, I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, he says, this man here, Tommy O'Brien, he said he'd walk into my kitchen, middle of Tuesday morning, right, be flat out getting lunch ready. Your man would walk in, how are you? How's it going? And he says, I'll be with you in a second, Tommy. Would you like a cup of tea? I'll have a cup of tea. I'll have a cup of tea. Would you have a scone with that? I'll have a scone with that. Right? So the two of them would sit down at the workbench, having a cup of tea and a cup of scone and a scone. He says, we talk about everything and anything except frozen food or pastries, right? And he says, then Tommy, you get up, right, I'll see you now, good luck. And he says, you turn around, your freezer will be full. I just thought it was brilliant. So Dad would go in and he'd just have the chat and have the cup of tea with people, and they'd simply buy, we get the paperwork.
Well, they'd ring the office because, I wasn't carrying frozen food in the freezer. But I know O'Leary said the same when I was invited to another retirement at Malahide Golf Club, and they gathered a few of these people, and I know O'Leary was the catering manager in the hospital, lovely lady. And she said, oh, Tommy, you come in, talk about Dorian, how's Dorian, and how are all the lads, how are they all doing? We chat away. And then she said this out there, and then you'd be going home, and the freezer before, But Nick O'Neill, I maintained lots of great connection with people over the years. You see, I suppose the thing is, when you're real, people warm to you, and you warm to people who are real. You don't have to put on any airs and graces or whatever. Just be yourself. I often said, I'm sorry, go on, sorry. Well,
no, please keep going.
I suppose I was that's the way I was born and raised. I never had much belief in myself, believe it or not. People say you had a lovely voice, you sing songs, and if I had a voice, it was given to me, but I never would push it and say, look, stick my chest out and that. And even in sales, I saw guys in the catering trade at the catering exhibitions, some great guys, I say, God, look, those guys are brilliant, and I never considered myself brilliant or great at all or good, but I just felt, I just worked with people and tried to befriend them, not so much to cajole them, but so that I'd get to know them, they'd know me, and then they'd know my product. Now, as far as Green Eye had a good name for quality products. The steam machine was a good product, and and therefore the people who I dealt with were senior managers or senior chefs or executive chefs and so on. And I remember one when I was being let go from cuisine, actually, again, what happened with the managing director of I think it was a big company, Gardner Merchants. Sutcliffe, thanks Dory, Sutcliffe Catering, huge organisation. They had maybe 100 outlets around all the major IT businesses. And he says, so he told me, I'd like you to come along. He says, I'm having a do from all my senior management. So he invited me along anyway, and did a little stand there to participate in it. But he says, before we do anything, he says, I want to call Tommy O'Brien up. He says, I believe he's leaving cuisine, he says. And there was a girl band in England had lost its manager. He says, I think he's actually going to manage Sports Cars, or whatever he said. He made a bit of a joke of it, but I was going. But you see, I was going, wherever I was going. And so he gave me a present of a gold medal for services to the trade, to his organisation. I didn't get it from Green Isle. I didn't get it from cuisine, but I got it from this man, and that was terrific, It was terrific. Anyway,
but that's the measure of the man,
maybe I shouldn't have said that.
You outworked the competition, and you did so from a service perspective. You never went out to make the sale. You went out to make a friend, and the friends bought from you. So it's lovely. Listen, Eamon, you might line up a couple of photographs that we snaffled, if you wouldn't mind. There's a couple of photographs of the gardens, Dad. I want Eamon just to show picture, because gardening is one of your great loves.
Oh, love it, absolutely.
A couple of photographs, Eamon, if you wouldn't mind, of the garden in Tonleague Road, where Dad is at the moment, and Mam, and of course then we've got the holiday home in Wexford. You've got both looking beautiful, Dad. So Evan's just going to throw them up here, and you can talk to us about your gardening exploits. Gardening's always been something you've enjoyed, or is it only in the last 50 years?
Well, I suppose in the early days you do it because you want to keep the place half decent looking, you know. It wasn't have something that I was madly keen about, but I just wanted to keep it neat as best I could. But in more recent times, I realised that you can propagate your own stuff, you know. So I propagated nearly all my own. On the left-hand side there you see geraniums, and the ones on the left, on the corner here, pink. I only put those in about a month ago. There was an old bush there and something I didn't particularly like. I said, why am I leaving that there? So I decided I'd get rid of it. And I got rid of it, Colm and folks. And then as you move along, there's a hydrangea. And then the long, tall ones are crocosmia. There's another name for them called, the head is gone again. Montbretia. If you're in Kerry, you see it all over the countryside, Montbretia. But that's a cultivated version. It's called crocosmia. And then there's a rose in the background.
That's lovely. And folks, do you see that? That's where we grew up. Carol is looking at this as well. Carol, good to see you in the room.
Oh yeah, Carol, that's right, Carol, yeah.
Well, Carol and I would come out, see the garage door open there in the background. We'd come out, sneak out the back garage and turn right and head over where that tall plant is. We'd always climb over the wall there and head up to the green at the back for a bit of crack. Listen, Naaman, just going to the back garden there.
Can I keep coming? Just to tell you, because I worked in the garden and the summer was so good and we're all off cocooning, I spent a lot of time there, and I met neighbours from behind me. That's a cul-de-sac area in there. And I met neighbours to beat the band, coming in, knocking, saying, hello, Tommy, how are things, how Tommy? And we started exchanging products, plants. And one man then gave me 2 beautiful tomato plants in big pots. And they were established, you know, let's say 2 foot tall, and there was 2 or 3 little small tomatoes on them. So 2 weeks ago, he lived with me. I went around to see him. Phil is his name. So Phil, I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I'm telling him what I was doing. And he said, yeah, you're doing grand, Tommy. You're doing grand, Tommy. By the way, do you see that ivy behind you? I said, yeah. See, when I came into this area 50 years ago, you were trimming your hedge. I said, I stole a bit of your thing. So yeah, I picked it off the ground. I said, that's your hedge. So I always think about that. And I was delighted. That this man has a hedge. You see it in the car. Well, yeah, it's gone anyway. It's on the right-hand side here. Do you see it along that wall? Anyway, sorry, Colm.
No, go back to the back garden there.
That was it. And it goes over the wall on the Lightwood Road. And you might pick it off the side of the road.
That's where Carol and I we used to shimmy across the wall just there. Anyway, listen, back to the back garden real quick, and because I want to go to Wexford then, if you wouldn't mind, Eamon. So there's the back garden looking beautiful, and it's a little piece of heaven, in fairness, in a Dublin suburb. Dad, you love it, don't you?
I love it, yeah. That table and chairs there, they left them out the year before last, the suite on top of the patio, and now mind you, if you were to examine that in detail, you'd be a little bit shocked, but I brought it in, put it together again, gave it a lick of paint, as they say. The chair on the left was a better achievement, and that was fairly well gone. And I did a pretty good job with that one, I think. But look, I had the time to do it, the enthusiasm, the energy. You know, up to this morning, I had great energy. I don't know what happened to me this morning, Colm. I stared away with it. So yeah, thank God. And if you can see the sundial to the left of the suite, the brown suite, that's the one you gave me, Colm, on my retirement.
Yeah, that was a gift from all the kids.
Family gift, that's right.
On one of your retirements.
Yeah. The neighbours behind is Frank and Phyllis Kyle. The man to the left is David O'Mahony. The people to the right are Jim and Sadie Bellin. All our neighbours are the same.
Yeah, that's great.
Tell them, do anybody ever leave?
Fabulous. Listen, Eamon, bring us to Wexford if you wouldn't mind, please. If you can. There we go. So this is we spent all of our summers down here. Carol and I have very fond memories of that place, and it was a field, part of a huge field, and Dad took a corner, put a bit of string barbed wire around it, and isn't that just lovely? And grew the trees. Now we haven't got any shots of your lovely plants there, but that was my fault for not getting them. But just wanted to show people that we had an idyllic upbringing.
You see the tree at the far gable end. On the left now.
Yeah.
I'm going down to Wexford tomorrow to demolish that tree with a chap down there. It's too tall and it's too dangerous and it's keeping the light out of the back bedroom.
Yeah, very good, very good.
And we've 4 bedrooms now.
Yeah, we spent all our summers in Wexford. Started off in a caravan in a local farmland field, and then it grew into a mobile home. Then the site came, the mobile home moved to the site, and then I remember as a 15-year-old, not neither today nor yesterday, we were digging trenches there for the septic tank, and we built that place. And I remember sleeping in the front room there when there was no roof on it. Remember that, Dad?
Oh, yeah.
Just concrete. But look, great times, great fun. Dad, lovely stuff. Eamon, thank you for that. Thank you for bringing us there. Listen, Dad, I want to get into your poetry, if you wouldn't mind. Would you mind reading us a poem?
Yeah, how I got into poetry, I had a hip trouble for a while, good while, and I couldn't sleep at night time. I also played a bit of golf. I played golf all my life. I was a caddy in Portmarnock, of course, so you learned how to swing and that, you know. Then I started to play golf in a place called the Island, a very good links course out in North Dublin. And there was a prize, I got tournament, and this friend of mine won it. You might know the name Donald McNally, famous optician, and has had 12 optician shops in Dublin. He sold them all, and he has one main one now just beside the Hibernian Hotel. But Donald won the prize, and the prize giving was to happen on a Sunday. He said, that's grand, I'll be there. Then they changed it to a Saturday and he couldn't go. And he rang someone to stun him from, they said they would, but they didn't. And for whatever reason, the prize was given away. And I thought that wasn't right. And this night, it was 3 a.m, I'll never forget it, my hips were killing me. And we had the attic column where you slept with the old chair and the vase. And I had my computer up there. I went up and I started to write something about this thing that happened. And to try and verbalize it, or whatever you want to call it. And whatever I wrote came out in a poetic form. Never wrote anything in my life before that, but it came out in the form of a poem. And I read it for a few of the guys in the audience and said, Tommy, that's brilliant, you know, try it. And the one thing I do find, I wrote a few more since, a good few actually. I don't call them poems, I call them stuff. I write stuff. And but you can say an awful lot in a few lines that you could take ages to verbalize. So this poem is about Colm's eldest child, Shona, and it's called Shona's Braces. Braces were things when I was a chap for to hold up my trousers, a kind of a strap. 4 holes in the front with buttons that embrace, they crossed at the back to keep them in place. We never asked questions, for this is the way we held up our trousers, what more can I say? Till along came a belt, a strap made of plastic, no sooner than done when they put in elastic. The world have went wild with this new fancy look, trousers all neat without any tuck. They fit like a glove, all neat round the waist. Braces were gone, removed with great haste. However, my granddaughter, Shona so sweet, said she's got braces put onto her teeth. I said, you are joking. Are they falling about? Oh no, she said, Grandad, it's to straighten them out. I still couldn't fathom, or was I just dumb? Braces were for trousers and not for the gum. How on earth could she start to put them in place? Sure, the whole thing is mad. She'll be a disgrace. So down I went to fair Limerick City, this granddaughter of mine to hug and to pity. As she opened her mouth, I tried to admire, but just couldn't do it. She'd a mouth full of wire. She said it was tough on her trying to eat. The feeling was strange from her head to her feet. With barbed wire for breakfast, dinner and tea, you'd be all torn to pieces. It just baffled me. But when we sat down and started to talk, and I listened and learned and didn't balk about this procedure, this revolutionary fangle that would put back in place those teeth at an angle. Strange though it was, it seemed to be working, despite the weird thoughts in my mind that were lurking. She braved it all through 2 years of endurance, her prize though well worth it, nice teeth her insurance. I look at her now, a queen to behold, and though she's only 17 years old. She's tall, fair and gentle, nothing dark, nothing shady, a granddaughter I'm proud of, a gorgeous young lady.
Rapturous silent applause all around the world. Actually, truly international audience this morning.
Yeah, that's me.
That's lovely. That's lovely. So yeah, so Dad started to scribble a few words down that became poems or stuff, as he calls it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he published a book, self-published a book of poems called Coffee, How Are You? And you sold, I can't remember how many copies you sold, but you gave all the money to your good friend from school who was a missionary in South America, I think.
Yeah, I never forgive him. He introduced me to Dorian. Right, he was Dorian's, a neighbour of Dorian's. And she's not going to get on aghast. That, by the way, I tell jokes to the old folks. I'm always telling jokes. Yeah, Tom Murphy and I went to school together. And Tom lived a few doors from Dorian. And we went to a party together in a house off the Malahide Road a few years ago. And that's where I met Dorian. And it was love at first sight as far as I was concerned. And there was another girl, believe it or not, was kind of hanging around me. And I didn't know what to do. So eventually I had to say to her a few weeks later, by the way, I said, we're too young, we'd have to. Should we keep in touch? You're a nice person. And I ran straight down to Dorian. And we courted for 5 years and we're married 59 years today.
Well done, well done.
But that's Tom Murphy. So Tom went off to be a priest, sorry, Colm. And he worked in Brazil. And I mean, poverty unheard of, people living out of plastic bags and like. So anyway, someone said, Tommy, why don't you have loads of poems, why don't you do a book? And I didn't want to do a book. And so anyway, I was kind of persuaded. And I produced this thing called Coffee, How Are You? And why did I sell it? I asked the priest, could I speak at the after Mass at 3 churches? And I sold 175 books one weekend. And then I started to sell them to my friends. And so, I was selling about €6,000, But that was how I got involved in writing bits of stuff.
Yeah, well done, well done, well done. Listen, thanks for that, Dad. You have your guitar with you, and Eamon Smith is going to put up. Come here, he's blaming Tom Murphy for introducing him to the Ma, right? Wait till you see the Ma. The Ma was Bride of the Month in June 1961.
Oh, yes.
Now, nothing wrong with that, like.
There you are now.
Right.
Who couldn't fall for that lady?
There you go. So that's the Ma in 1961. Eamon, thank you for that. You can leave that up. Dad, would you sing the Rings End Rose for us, will you?
Oh, yeah.
There's the backdrop. And Eamon, we'll hold on to that last picture that I spoke about for a few moments, if that's okay. So when this is finished, take that one down if you don't mind. Thank you, Eamon. So introduce the song there, Dad.
Well, Pete St. John wrote this. He wrote The Fields of Athenry, of course. I was telling your lady friend there, earlier that Dawn and I spent our honeymoon in the Fields of Athenry. First night in Athenry, we spent our first night honeymoon. But Pete St. John wrote the song, My Rings and Rose. Apparently, he fancied this girl, and she didn't fancy him. This is a true story, but pretty well, I mightn't have all the detail, and anyway, when he was trying to court the daughter, he had to meet the mother, and I think the mother fancied him more than the daughter did. Now, there was nothing untoward going on, by the way. Anyway, it's called My Rings and Rose. There's a little chorus to it, you might know it, you can join in. Dublin town, there lived a girl, fairer than the flower I'm wearing, Rose Donahue, all fresh and new, and I love her past, Lord Karen, and there she goes, my rings and rose, in God's garden there's none rarer, and there she goes, my rings and rose. Dublin town has seen none fairer, sweet 17, my seamstress queen, She's no bigger than a thimble, soft satin skin. Street Arabs grin as she makes the work look simple. And there she goes, my rings and rose. In God's garden there's none rarer. And there she goes, my rings and rose. Dublin town has seen none fairer. Three yards of lace, she walks with grace, and the golden ring she's asking a saving slow. Ah, but still I know that our love is everlasting. And there she goes, my rings and rose. In God's garden there's none rarer. And there she goes, my rings and rose. Dublin town has seen none fairer. Dublin town has seen none fairer. Hey, now Dublin. My ring.
That was just gorgeous. That was just gorgeous. Eamon, thank you. You can take that picture down and see the cafe if that's okay. That was lovely. Bula bus, bula bus.
Okay, now.
Fantastic. That was gorgeous. Yeah, thanks for that. So, folks.
Just digress for them. Doreen is responsible for you playing the guitar, Colm, Ger and Donald playing the guitar, Carol playing the guitar in Australia, your children playing the guitar, and all the family. Because Doreen bought me a guitar many years ago, a very expensive guitar, £2.10. I brought it to have it to get a lesson. I got 6 lessons, I think, or 2 or 3. And he says, Tommy, I'm finding it hard to tune this because you see, a guitar needs to be of certain durability. This wasn't, but anyway, that started us off, and that guitar has brought joy to my life and to your lives, Colm, the lads' lives, and Carol, and so on. We've met thousands of people through the guitar. So Doreen, thanks very much. Clap for Doreen. There you are now. It's
I love it.
Just to say,
nothing changes. Nothing changes. I was interested.
What you tell you, Colm, the simple things in life, the little things that seem little, can develop into God knows what. Okay, sorry. So,
that's great. It's great. I was just going to comment on the fact that Mum is still there in the background. Wind beneath your wings. You always think that about her.
Yeah.
But she was there giving you the word that you were missing earlier, and the amount of sing songs I've been at where you've been up there playing guitar and she's whispered the next few words to you.
Many times.
Come here, no, Dad. It's been lovely having you in this capacity, and lovely to have all these people meet you, because I've been speaking about you for years, yourself and Mum, and the influence you've had. So it's nice to get people to meet the people behind it, if that makes sense. One more song that Uncle John introduced you to. Would you mind? And then we'll go to Shelley for comment, if that's okay.
Yeah. Certainly.
So here's Dad and his 4 brothers, right? On the
Oh
screen.
yes.
This is in my brother Ger's house some years back. And what you have there is the 5 O'Brien brothers, Dad and his 4, and they're going from right to left in your screen, anti-clockwise if you like, in terms of eldest, second eldest, and so on, youngest off to the left. And then Carol is the eldest in our family, then yours truly, Ger in the middle, Patricia, and then the baby Donal over the far side. So just thought that was a lovely photograph.
Yeah, and leave that for a minute, Carl.
Yeah, We're going to leave that picture if you wouldn't mind, Dad, because Uncle John introduced you to a particular.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there was 5 of us in the family, and you know, we all were different, of course. Stephen, the way the eldest, he went to South Africa for 17 years. The next that below Colm is my brother John, whom I was very friendly with. We were pals. And he emigrated to England 60 years ago, but I still visited him and lived in Wales. He married a Welsh girl. The next that is Fran. He's a professional singer, and Jer's above him. And then next is myself and Patricia above me there. And then the next is my other brother, Michael. He went to Canada 30 years ago, and Donald behind him. So John behind Colm, or below Colm there, he and I were very close. And Sunday Miscellany and John Bowman, he said, Thomas, did you hear that song? Did you hear Sister John? What did you hear, man? The story today. I heard a great song. So not long, John died, Lord bless him, last year. And just before he died, maybe 2 months before that, he rang me one day. See, I was in the car today. I'd be Thomas to the family. Thomas just said, I heard a song. He says, I think you'd like it. And so of course, when he told me what it was, I listened to it. Willie Nelson and Kemi Rhodes recorded it, 2 famous American folk singers and ballad and singer-songwriters. It's called I Always Go the Other Way. And when I'm entertaining the young folk, I say, by the way, I don't know where you're all from, but wherever you're from, I'm sure whenever you go back to your home place, you always say, oh gosh, there's the house I was raised in, or there was a little shop down the road, or there was a forge down there, or whatever it was. So this song is called I Always Go the Other Way, and I always dedicate it to my brother John. I always go the other way, but my car drove me down today to a little house on the older side of town. Like when things were never heard, I used to play there in that yard. So I just drove by to see if things had changed. Coke was just a nickel then, across the street in the 5 and 10. Things were very strange and cheap and fair, and the life that we had might have been, but it was one we all loved believing in. So I just drove by to see if things had changed. Oh, I wondered now if love is still the way it was back then. I need to know that life is still a place worth living in. And there it is, just like it was, a house where there was always love. So I just drove by to see if things had changed. In a world that's seen its better days, it's nice to know some things never change. Though standing still is surely not life's way. So take to heart while in its spring, all love is still a fragile thing. So I just drove by to see if things had changed. I wondered now if love is still the way it was back then. I need to know that life is still a place worth living in. And there it is, just like it was, a house where there was always love. So I just drove by to see if things had changed. I just drove by to see if things had changed. That's it?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Struggled a bit, sorry, but that I struggled a bit with it, sorry.
Not at all, not at all. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Dad, listen, Dad, thanks for taking the time out. I just felt, you know, this thing, COVID hit, we're all here. let's have the chat with you and record it there for posterity. Not that we're wishing anything but the best for your future, but so it's lovely to have you in. I know Carol came into the cafe. Carol, would you like to pop in and just say a quick hello? Stick on the specs.
There I am. Can you hear me now?
Hi, Carol.
Hiya, Dad. Well done.
Okay, fair, yeah.
Greg's here with me. Yeah, my computer wasn't working, so I came in on his.
Great.
So what do you want to say to him just before we go to...
Well done, Dad. That was great.
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Listen, Carol, thanks for coming in. Very good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Say hello in Perth.
Yeah, I have a couple of things to say.
I have a lot to say.
I have a lot to say about this, so keep listening. One of them is I became firm friends with Tommy. Not only was he my father-in-law, but the day he actually said to me, stop calling me Mr. O'Brien, I'm Tommy, we became friends. And that was quite short in our relationship. And one of the things that Tommy said to me that was involved in his whole career was there is always a pregnant pause when you're doing the paperwork. And he said, that's the time to be quiet. So if, let's say, if you're selling a car and a guy says, I'll give you 200 and you want 400, now's the time to be quiet. Because he who speaks next loses. And I always remember that. So whenever I'm doing negotiating, I respect that pregnant pause and let social embarrassment make the other person give in. Great to see you, Tommy.
You too, Ferg and Carol. God bless you both.
Yeah, Ferg and Carol, thanks for coming in. That's
Hey.
great stuff, great stuff. Ferg and Carol became grandparents again very recently. Kathy Mera in New Hampshire became a grandmother there in the last fortnight. So it's all happening. Listen, lovely stuff. Thank you, Carol and Ferg, for coming in for that few moments. That'd be great. That's great. Princess Shelley, I'm going to pass over to you if you don't mind. Thank you.
Hey Tommy, thank you very much for your, you had the whole cafe in stitches, creasing with your fantastic poem. We were all nodding and we loved it. And your beautiful song, it was, your both songs were beautiful. I actually messaged Colm there privately because I've never, 82 shows, this is 82 shows, and I always put in a comment to remind people to pop a comment in the chat box about halfway through the interview, you know, Tommy. I would say, don't forget guys, this is where you pop the comment. Today was a first here on the Coffee at 11 show, everybody. They were coming in so fast that I didn't put it in. I did not encourage or foster bringing in comments because I have 100 at least here to read and there's no way I'll get to them. So we've started, Tommy. Katrina she'll capture them and maybe email them to you, and you can see the love that is in the cafe for you. I'll read one or two, but I've never, it's a manuscript. There's like 100 and something comments all saying how fabulous you are. Lisa's kicked it off coming in from Galway, which I loved. Lisa said, really looking forward to hearing about the legend behind the legend, which I really liked. Thanks for that, Lisa. And she was saying, we were talking before the start of the show about Limerick, You're a Lady, and she said it was Dennis Allen. So we were trying to figure out beforehand. So yeah, lots and lots. DKO came in. You were saying early on, Tommy, about you just knew that you could do better. And I actually made a note. We've all got these notebooks, Tommy, you know. Show us your notebooks there, guys. Eamon will have one there as well. And we make notes of all the things. And I actually made a note. And Dee said here as well about that you knew that you could do better. You know, I made a note that you're not looking for riches or grandeur just to feel fulfilled. Right. And Dee was saying that she likes that innate know that there's so much more in us. Go, Tommy, she said. So thanks for that, Dee. That was lovely. I thought Harriet McGuigan, who's joined us, she was a previous guest on the show, actually, Tommy. And Harriet said you were talking about a lower point in your career. And she said sometimes breakdowns can be breakthroughs, which I thought was really nice, really nice. Thank you for that, Harriet. So that was lovely. James then came in and said, which I liked as well, it's obvious that the apple did not fall far from the tree. It's like listening to my dad who stares out at me every morning from the mirror. So I think that was lovely. Thank you for that. James. And we can see some charisma that has maybe fallen out of you and into the host that we're all very, very fond and have a great warmth and affection for here in the Coffee at 11 show. And I'm seeing all the nods there, which is lovely. Donald Thurlow said he cancelled a Zoom seminar with 15 people because he wanted to hear this live today. And boy, did I make the right decision. I could listen to Tommy for hours. And he actually sent a question there a while ago saying a 2-hour show today. He's bang up for that. He really, really liked that a lot. So I'm looking at more. Everyone loved the way you studied for the Leaving Cert. There was a few there saying that they loved that. Christina O'Shaughnessy, who's joining us in Geneva, Tommy, she said that she's overwhelmed by this man's charm. You can give Tommy a wave there, Christina, so he can see you. She's sitting there joining us in Geneva in a beautiful red top. And then I'll wind it up and pass back in just a moment. I'll just finish off with one or two, Tommy. Noelle McAlinden, again, a previous guest in the show, said, what a privilege it is to listen to you, Tommy. Huge wisdom and compassion, a man ahead of your time, refreshingly open about recognising the vulnerability of depression and what an exceptionally positive outlook on life and not giving up. You have another book there in you, and she's energized just listening to you, and your reminder of her late father. You're some character, she said. So thank you very much for that comment, Noelle, and it's really, really lovely. So like I say, that isn't even, Tommy, that isn't even the tip of the iceberg, and I'm missing some real dingers of comments that I'm missing out. It's such a shame to miss out on them. Mado, I love him talking about being real and authentic. There's so much of a lot to be said for it in any industry and every walk of life. Isn't that lovely, Tommy? I mean, you know, are you feeling the love, Tommy? You are?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, thank you.
So your poem brought Harriet to tears, and I was the same. The love that falls out of you, Tommy, when you're talking about your granddaughter, and that you sprinkled it with humour and just, it was just so proud, and it did. I felt myself swell up. So guys, I'm very sorry. Liz Valor, I'm going to finish off. Liz says, I've decided this was the most important interview because Tommy comes from the heart, and that what you see in front of you is who he is. This was special. So big round of applause there. I apologize, guys. I haven't got to all the comments. It's impossible. You certainly kept me very busy today. It was the first day I was like, you know what? I resign. I can't deal with the pressure. Tommy, you're a fantastic guest, and I'm going to pop you back to the host, certainly with the most. Back to you, Mr. O'Brien.
I love it. No, folks, there is the first. Princess Shelley lost for words because there are too many. I love that resignation on its way. No, Dad, that's great. You know, we've been doing this, as Shelley said, this is the 82nd time we've rocked up to have a conversation with people worth meeting. And, you know, it was very important for me to invite you on the show. As I said earlier, it was supposed to be on your birthday on the 6th of August when you'll be 82. So delighted that we've made it happen. And but the other thing that you need to know, I suppose, is that you know, we've got this beautiful cohort of regulars that pop in every day or every couple of days, and certainly once a week we've got regulars that come in, and so the cafe fills up somewhat. Depends on who's, if you like, in the hot seat. Today is one of the handful of shows in all 82 where we opened the back room to the cafe. And that says more about the guests than it does about us in the show. It's that people who've been hearing about Tommy O'Brien wanted to come in and meet the man himself. So so well done. Very proud of you, Dad, for stepping up. And it's lovely to introduce you to this this good, beautiful cohort of people that I've come to know through Coffee at 11 show. So there you go, folks. There's one for the archives for sure. Lovely to have you all here and come in. And I see the Baron of Dublin has popped in. Baron, you're very welcome. Great to see you. But yeah, it's lovely to have had you all come in and meet the Da and the Ma in passing.
I want to thank the Baron. He did a great job in the garden, and he gave me a beautiful present of a flower which is blossoming and blooming. So thanks, Baron.
I tell you one thing. I booked the seat here. I had an argument with my missy, and everything fall apart from there. Will you forgive me, Tommy? Will you forgive me for that?
No,
but I will. Thank you.
Oh,
that's great. Thanks, Ben. Thank you for that. Okay, folks, look, that's it. I don't know if Ma'am wants to pop in and say a quick hello or...
No, I'll say hello, love. Just going down. No, she's a bit shy. Could I finish with another poem? Not my own. Is that a possibility out of time?
Of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah, yeah.
Huh?
Yes, of course. Yeah, it's your show. Yeah.
I mean, I've lots of poems. I was talking to my great-granddaughter yesterday in Australia, Nikita, and she loved the poem about Little Robin Redbreast, which I wrote, and I sent it to her, and I told her, she said, maybe you'd write, and she says, thanks, Grandad Tommy. She calls me Grandad Tommy. So I met briefly John Sheehan. I did that English class with his brother for a couple of years. The creative writing it wasn't the more creative, but it was a bit of fun. And I gave him my book, and he gave it to his brother John Sheehan, the famous violinist, last of the Dubliners. And John sent me this book and said, wish you well, Tommy, John Sheehan. Fabulous stuff. So I'll read this, if I may. And again, when we'd go to the country column years ago, you know, where are you from? Oh, we're from Dublin. Oh, Dublin, yeah. I have a cousin down there in Clontarf. Maybe you know him, Paddy Murphy. You know, they all think because they live in the country. In the country, people, everybody knows everybody. But this is a lovely story. It's called Quiet Wisdom. And thanks to everybody for your attention, for the invitation column, for being part of your circle. You see, another saying, money is important, but people are precious. We need each other. So thanks very much to each and every one of you. I wish you every good wish. And I'll leave you with this John Sheehan poem called Quiet Wisdom for Uncle Jim. Have you travelled much, Uncle Jim? I was in Dublin once for a match, he said proudly with a grin. An All-Ireland final in Croke Park. And I stayed in Murphy's B&B in Jones's Road. I suppose you know Mrs. Murphy, he remarked. I smiled an inner smile. How innocent, how limited, how untravelled, I thought. And then I saw myself unravel. I can't milk a cow or plough a furrow, or tell when corn is ripe for the scythe, or tell a robin from a sparrow, or tell which songbird sings on high, or tell the elm from the ash, or tell the weather from the signs known to the farmer. But he can. Now I learn from his quiet wisdom in his University of Fields. John Sheehan. God bless everybody. Thanks very much, everybody. Wish you all well. Carolyn Fair, God bless. Talk to you later.
Well, there you go, folks. That's the Da. Dad, thanks for that. Just gorgeous, just gorgeous. I knew it would be. And yeah, thanks for coming in. Pleasure to chat to you like this and to record it. So mind yourself, mind ma'am. Listen, folks, thanks for coming in this morning. Excuse me. Emotional.
Yeah,
good one. Right, what's happening in the show for the rest of the week? This is the last week of the Coffee at 11 show, series 1. And so what's happening in the show tomorrow? The lovely Katrina O'Brien is coming in tomorrow. She's our editor-in-chief and our rock. And delighted, looking forward to that conversation. And there are depths to this woman that you'll only find out if you pop in tomorrow and have a listen. So you need to do that. And then Thursday, I've been cajoled into being the guy in the hot seat. We were stuck. We had a gap. And Katrina herself is going to interview me. Some people have been asking about the Coffee at 11 show journey, so I'm going to share that on Thursday. And then on Friday, to finish the show off, we have a fabulous lady called Dr. Sinead Kane. And Dr. Sinead Kane is a blind adventurer. She has run 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 different continents, 7 consecutive days, and she's blind, and she's also Ireland's first blind solicitor. She's going to come in and talk about her adversity. That's what she's a keynote speaker in. So I think that's a really powerful way to finish the series. But look, folks, the series has been made because all of you have taken time out of your schedules to come and meet people worth meeting. And delighted to say that Tommy O'Brien, the Da, is definitely one of those. So that's it, folks. Thank you to wigwam.ie SME Peer Support for their ongoing support. And I'll finish the show, as I always do, by saying, Tommy O'Brien, the Da, I love you.
Thanks, Carl. God bless you, son. Thank you. Love you too.